Downstairs, we're ready to begin. All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the July 21st, 2021 meeting of the Town of Brighton Planning Board. This is the first time that we have met in 13 months, I believe, and we are meeting again in person as a result of the governor's rescinding certain portions of the open meeting law that was changed during the COVID pandemic. So we are now back live. We all have the application information. That's why we are using computers. We do not mean to not pay attention to everybody. We are, but all of the drawings and application information is now on our computers, and we are not looking at the screen the way we have for the last 12 months. So welcome, and appreciate everybody coming out. At this point, Mr. Secretary, will you please call the roll for tonight?
Altman?
Here.
Price?
Here.
Babcock Steiner?
Here.
Osowski?
Here.
Absent is Fader and Delaney.
Thank you. We received our meeting minutes for our May 19th meeting. Does someone wish to make a motion to approve those meeting minutes?
Before we do that,
Okay.
Chairman, could we just confirm that the meeting was properly noticed and advertised?
We do that after this.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Too many
No,
other,
just before the public hearings.
too
we-
many
Many
other
boards, too many
meetings.
different.
I don't know.
Yeah, so I'm looking for anybody that would like to make a motion.
I'll move that we approve the May 19th meeting minutes.
Osowski motions,
Second.
second by Altman.
Okay, moved and seconded. Is there any discussion, edits, corrections, additions? Okay, please call the roll.
Altman?
Aye.
Price?
Aye.
Babcock Steiner?
Aye.
Osowski?
Aye.
Minutes approved.
Thank you. We will review the June 16th meeting minutes at our August 18th meeting. We are now hold our public hearings, and Mr. Secretary, have the public hearings been properly advertised?
Yes, the public hearings were properly advertised in the Brighton Pittsford Post of July 15th, 2021.
Great, thank you. We will hear those now, and again, these are all public hearings, and in the process is that we listen to the application presented by the applicant or their agent, and then we will have the public hearing portion, same as when we Zoom. Our first application tonight is 6P02-21, the application of Westfall Medical Realty LLC for demolition review and approval of preliminary and final site plan to raise 6,015 square foot medical office building and reuse the foundation to construct a 6,400 square foot medical office building at 2233 South Clinton Avenue. Tom?
Good evening, Tom Fromberger, MRB Group, representing the applicant and owner. As you're aware, from our last meeting, we received 3 comment letters. One was from the Planning Board, the second was from the Public Works, and the third was from Monroe
Tom.
County.
Tom, excuse me, can he take his
Yes,
mask off?
let me just make this sort of general announcement for you, Tom, and for anyone else who's going to be speaking. Once you get to the podium and you're ready to speak, please feel free. You're not required to take your mask down, but feel free to take your mask down if you'd like to, and then obviously replace it after you leave the podium. Thank you.
Thank you. We received 3 comment letters. We've addressed each of those comments in the letters as they were specified from the Planning Board, the Department of Public Works, and Monroe County DRC. We resubmitted back on July 7th in regard to those comments. If there's anything in particular that you'd like to go through, we can go through them, or we can address.
Tom, were there any questions that you had heard at the last public meeting that you wanted to address with regard to some of the questions that were raised? I know there was one about the public access to the sidewalk along Westfall Road. If you have a plan, I'd appreciate you hanging it up. And when you do talk, if I could ask you to speak into the microphone. I think there are others in other rooms listening and just want to make sure they can hear. Thank you.
On our updated plan, we showed the available sidewalks. Sidewalks are on the east side of South Clinton Avenue, shaded in this location. There are sidewalks up on North Westfall on both the north and south sides of the street. The right-of-way and property comes through and travels around this location. There is a existing easement that covers the sidewalk, as well as a Monroe County DOT easement that covers the sidewalk on this side. There is an existing 10-foot wide sidewalk easement on South Clinton Avenue as well.
Okay. There were also questions about adequate, drive aisles for ambulance access and circulation.
In regard to ambulance circulation, there is adequate circulation in this in the parking lot areas. I also routed a fire truck through that, and it was able to accommodate the parking location.
Good.
Tom, can you just go through why
Couple I
the building's being demolished?
Sure. The building is being demolished. It's actually partially being demolished. The first floor and the roof are being taken down. The foundation is being kept. There's a small minor building addition, which is approximately 410 square feet, and that includes basically the vestibule area in this location, another bump out on the side, bringing our total to, I think it's 6,425 square feet. Building is being demolished to improve the building height inside to make it more accessible and usable as a facility.
Is there a basement?
There is a basement.
That remained, that's obviously staying.
Correct.
What is the increase in square footage from the existing building to this building?
The total building size will increase by 410 square feet.
That's for the vestibule?
Ramsey, could you lean forward and
Yes,
speak?
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
You said up 410 feet, and that is for the vestibule and some office, did you say?
I'll post up this other plan. So there is a current vestibule bump out in the existing structure in these two locations. This demising wall or front wall will be extended out, and these will now become offices in a new entry area.
Have you done a pre-demolition asbestos survey?
We have done a pre-demolition asbestos survey. We submitted a copy to the town, as well as an electronic copy paper.
And what did that report say?
It did show that there was asbestos in the building, and that will be abated appropriately.
And then necessarily reports would be submitted to the town?
Correct. Yep.
And what type of provisions are you providing for trash?
Trash, there's an existing dumpster enclosure on site.
Is it enclosed, Tom?
There are two dumpsters down in the bottom, and you are correct, those two dumpsters are not enclosed.
And are those the dumpsters that you're proposing to use?
Those are the dumpsters that we are keeping.
Okay, so the dumpsters that are not enclosed are the ones that you're going to use?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And Tom, are you guys providing any modifications to the landscape plan that address like safety, security, any legal compliance?
We can add some additional landscaping right now. Landscaping around the building is to remain during construction. Any damaged materials from construction will be replaced in kind, and we do have a landscaping allowance for that in our construction budget.
And you have other allowances in the budget for other landscaping also?
We do. In meeting with the Conservation Board, they asked that we add some additional deciduous trees, and we are proposing those on site. I think there are 3 total. We will be working with a landscape architect and preparing a plan for that, and then submitting that to the town.
The new exterior lighting, is there any?
There is exterior lighting. We did submit a lighting plan for that. There is no site lighting in regard to parking lots. The only lighting is in regard to building-mounted fixtures, in regard to access or lighting over security for doors.
Security for doors, okay. And will the building be sprinklered?
The building will be sprinklered. This water comes into building number 5, and then it gets distributed out. Building 5 is sprinklered. This will now become sprinklered. We're extending a 4-inch fire service into this building to accommodate that.
And the roof leaders are going to be tied into the storm system?
All the existing roof leaders on site are tied into underground drainage, which all flows to a stormwater management facility. That is my understanding, and the new building will be connected into those same piping.
And am I correct that the HVA system is going to be in the basement?
The HVA system has now been converted to geothermal. Geothermal lines are located on the north side of the building. That was recently completed approximately a month ago. The HVAC units are located in the basement.
I don't have any other questions.
Right. You have questions?
Okay, I have a question.
John?
Might this project be an opportunity to extend the sidewalk around the corner from Westfall and go down Clinton Avenue? Take advantage of the easement that's there?
In regard to over on the side here, there
Right.
is some difficulty with an existing hydrant located up at the top. There is a lot of vegetation and landscaping along this side. Those would be my initial comments. I'm not at liberty to make that decision on behalf of the owner, but those are my...
Is that something that the town can request, or?
Something I guess you could consider, but we probably should talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah, to do that is it's a significant amount of construction and expense to do that, to get that down to the other location.
I mean, that's an obvious gap in the sidewalk there, because you can see it's further south, but then there's a gap along the property there. So, anyway,
Where does it start again? On the west side?
the other side of the driveway, their south driveway entrance.
There are crosswalks up here at the corner of South Clinton and Westfall to allow you to transfer and walk down. There's also crosswalks at all these different locations. Obviously, history has shown that a sidewalk being placed in there is difficult, but it's, it would require a lot of reconstruction of this area, additional landscaping, potentially moving a fire hydrant. It's definitely a significant cost.
Karen, do you have any questions? Ramsey, you're all set?
No other questions.
Okay. All right, thank you, Tom. All right, this will be the public hearing portion of it, where we allow the public to speak. I do want to just ask your consideration when you come up and speak. First off, we do thank you for participating in the process of making Brighton a better place to live. We know that many of you have sincere passions about the topics that are being discussed tonight. We are interested in hearing what you have to say, but we do ask that you keep your remarks brief. We did have our public hearing last time, and we heard a lot from both sides. Those comments from our last meeting are on the record, as are all of the correspondence that has been submitted to the prior public hearing, as well as prior to this meeting. We ask that you direct all of your comments to the planning board, not to anyone else in the audience or to the applicant. We are asking you to be civil and respectful of one another, and that we will not be actually answering questions tonight, but we are listening to your remarks with regard to the demolition and the site plan that we are going to be making a decision on. So what I will do, we have many speakers signed up already, 36, I believe. I will say the first three names, and then as the first person is done, I will give the name of the next person on deck. So we will always have three people ready to speak. The first speaker to sign up tonight is Jane Malwitz, to be followed by Carol Crossid, and then third is Vicky Gara.
And if I could just add to Bill's comments, for those folks who are on deck, ready to speak, if you're in this room, in the main auditorium, great. Just stay in your seat, and when it's your turn to speak, get up and speak. If you're downstairs or if you're outside and you're next to speak, we have 2 chairs out in the lobby. You can wait in those chairs out in the lobby so you don't have to run up from downstairs to speak. Okay? Thank you.
Jane, are you here?
Yes, thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you. Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to address the planning board.
Jane, excuse me. I'm going to ask everybody, please be cognizant of the mic. We've got fans going on and
Sorry,
background
is that
noise.
better?
It is, but please try to speak right into it. Thank you so much.
Okay. Good evening. I appreciate the opportunity to address the planning board. I strongly oppose 6P0221 and the building of a Planned Parenthood in Brighton. Does Planned Parenthood really represent the values of our community? And if so, as a resident, I find this disgraceful. In addition to their immoral murder of children, this will be very disruptive to the community, and I can guarantee you there will be frequent vocal and graphic protests. I hope people use their hearts and their conscience when they're deciding the approval. Furthermore, as a side note to Planned Parenthood, parents want nothing to do with the CSE being promoted by Planned Parenthood and Ms. Baruch. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that will be the last time we have clapping or anything that relates to an outburst for either side, and I appreciate your cooperation with that. The next is Carol Crossid, followed by Vicky Gara and Bob Gluck.
Thank you. I live at 1675 Clover Street, and I'm here to voice my disapproval of the building of a Planned Parenthood. I'd like to read a statement or a letter that Mr. Price, you are Mr. Price? I'm sorry, I could not hear you. Yeah, okay. That Bill McGinn sent to you. He is an attorney, and he is working with Brighton residents against violence.
Has this been sent to the town?
Yes, we have received it.
Please don't read it, just get the highlights. If it's been sent, then it's been entered into the record.
It was our understanding that you were going to read this to us.
No.
All right. Mr. McGinn states that he had an opportunity to speak to the planning board on June the 16th. His office and his home is in the town of Brighton. And he says that according to your letter dated June 21st to Mr. Tom Fromberger, Tom at MRB Group, at Westfall Realty at at first glance, it appears that the planning board wants very detailed information. And so he asks that this additional information be sought from MRB Group. These issues, he believes, are not addressed, and I could not hear everything that you said, Tom. So forgive me if this is a repeat. What are the plans for the disposal of medical waste, such as the remains of aborted fetuses? Now, I know you talked about dumpsters.
You're addressing the board, and we're not answering questions.
Okay. Will there be an environmental impact study on the production of the medical waste from abortions to be performed at this abortion facility? Will the facility be used for second and possibly third trimester abortions? Will the facility be used for the performance of medical experimentation and research on the fetus of an aborted patient? Will any of the body parts that are the product of an abortion be marketed and sold by Planned Parenthood from this facility, as has happened elsewhere? Will there be an environmental impact study on the increased volume of traffic that an abortion facility such as Planned Parenthood would likely produce? Will there be a disproportionate number of abortions of Black and brown fetuses in women compared to the general population of the area at this proposed Planned Parenthood abortion clinic? Just as Margaret Sanger wanted to limit the births of immigrant children, do her philosophical followers at Planned Parenthood today have a desire to reduce minority populations? Is this what is desired for the town of Brighton, which claims to be an inclusive community? The University of Rochester and other medical providers currently have a large number of medical buildings in the town of Brighton and in the area nearby, the town of Henrietta and the city of Rochester, to serve the various medical needs of a large population. So why is another abortion center desired in the town of Brighton? He talks about the sidewalks, and I believe Mr. Fromberger did address that. It is logical for protesters that pro-life protesters will frequently be at the site. How will the town handle the issue of traffic safety to both walking protesters and motorists on South Clinton Avenue? Will the town conduct any studies and suggest proposals to resolve these traffic and pedestrian problems? One of the areas that Bill McGinn did not address in this letter is the excessive policing that will be required. I was able to pass out the 4 pages of the police report that I obtained from the current abortion clinic that's already in the town of Brighton. I don't know how many we really need here. And it happens to be, as you know, a quarter of a mile up the street from this proposed clinic. And this one is at 220 South Clinton Avenue, Morris Wortman. I have here the police records from 1999, from 4 months during the construction of that abortion clinic. And they are single space. Let me just show them to you.
Okay,
can see them.
please wrap up get to
I'm
the
sorry?
conclusions. Please get your conclusions. We have several other people to speak.
There are 55 single-space police calls to that facility. And there's only one doctor in that facility, by the way. These calls did not result in any kind of criminal activity. These calls were basically to harass people expressing their right to free speech. And is this the way that the town of Brighton and this planning board believes that the good citizens of Brighton should spend their tax money. I have copies of these to give to each of you, the police records. There were 199 in a 5-month period. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming out.
Ms. Crosset, if you could provide those to Mr. Boehner, provide them, there you go. Thank you. And I do want to just note, and I should have noted it earlier, that the town staff has received numerous email communications today and earlier than today on this plan from both folks in opposition and folks in support. All of those emails will be made part of the public hearing record here tonight and will be entered in the record of the public hearing. So it's not necessary to reread all of those comments because they are going to be part of the public record.
Okay, thank you, Carol. Next is Vicky Gara. On deck is Bob Gluck, and Bill Mchale is following Bob.
Hi, my name is Vicki Garza. I'm also at 1675 Clover Street with Carol Crosset. I just want to come here this evening to remind people that conception, that life does begin at conception. So I'm going to be very quick. This is Psalm 139, 1 through 18. You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely. You hem me in behind and before, and you lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain. Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there. If I rise on the wings of the dawn, if I settle on the far side of the sea, even there your hand will guide me. Your right hand will hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness will hide me and the light become night around me, even the darkness will not be dark to you. The night will shine like the day, for darkness is as light to you. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful, I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place, when I was woven together in the depths of the earth. You saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. And I just want to remind people that this is the Word of God, and life begins at conception.
Thank you, Vicki. Bob Gluck, please, and then Bill Mchale and Donna Kerner. Donna Kerner is after Bill Mchale. Good evening.
Good evening. First, want to acknowledge the police presence here tonight. Thank you, officers, for keeping us safe and your duty to the town of Brighton. My name is Bob Gluck, and I have been and still remain a resident of Brighton for nearly 30 years. I am fully aware that this 7-member Brighton Town Planning Board reviews all applications for rezoning, site plan reviews, conditional use permits, consideration of requests by developers for the construction of new subdivisions. Thus, the reports and findings of this planning board are of vital importance in deciding the above matters. This is stated on the town's website, and I quote, "The role of the Brighton Planning Board is in a unique position to give advice on the future of our community." My comments pertain to the proposed demolition of a 6,015 square foot medical building at 2233 South Clinton Avenue, and the reuse of this said existing foundation to construct a new 6,425
square foot medical building by Westfall Medical Realty LLC. I presume that some, if not all of you, have children. I also presume that it's safe to say that you value the lives of all children, not only your own, and perhaps you even value the life of the unborn. If in fact both the Planning and Town Board approves this proposed development of that building, one of the procedures that will be offered and performed is medically termed intact dilation and extraction, or also referred to as a DNX. I am also fully aware that the State of New York's 2019 Reproductive Health Act allows for this procedure to be performed up and until the time of birth, and that it was previously capped at the 24-week gestation period. Prior to both the Planning and Town Boards authorizing approvals for this development of this so-called medical building, please listen and ponder the following statement by our former Supreme Court of the United States Justice John Paul Stevens to illustrate the procedure and its detrimental impact that it will have on the well-being of the town of Brighton. And I quote Justice John Paul Stevens, "It is evident that a mother who comes to regret her choice to abort must struggle with a grief more anguished and sorrow more profound when she learns what she once did not know, that she allowed a doctor to pierce the skull and vacuum the fast-developing brain of her unborn child." Justice John Paul Stevens. So I ask all of you, is this the type of legacy you want to own for the future of the town of Brighton? Do you want the blood of the innocent babies on your hands? How will each one of you answer God when He asks you on Judgment Day, why did you approve that building and allow the shedding of innocent blood to occur in your community? Thank you.
Thank you for coming out. Next is Bill Mchale, followed by Donna Kerner and Donald Martell.
My name's Bill Mchale, and I'm from Seneca Falls, home of women's rights, including unborn women's rights. Recently, Texas Governor Greg Abbott kept his word and signed into a law a pro-life bill that prohibits abortion after an unborn baby's heartbeat can be heard, which is usually around 6 weeks. The law, to a large degree, effectively outlaws abortion in the Lone Star State. It goes into effect on September 1st, 2021. Our Creator endowed us with the right to life, Abbott said at the bill signing. And yet millions of children lose their right to life every year because of abortion. In Texas, we work to save those lives. The heartbeat bill is now law in the Lone Star State. This bill ensures the life of every unborn child with a heartbeat will be saved from the ravages of abortion. In a tweet, the governor said, "The heartbeat bill is now law in the Lone Star State. This bill ensures the life of every unborn child with a heartbeat will be saved from the ravages of abortion." Although the law prohibits abortion after the child's heartbeat is detectable, exceptions are allowed in the cases of a medical emergency. If a doctor performs an abortion after the heartbeat can be detected, anyone may file a lawsuit against the doctor. The Texas Heartbeat Act is a novel approach, allowing for citizens to hold abortionists accountable through private lawsuits, according to the Texas Right to Life. No heartbeat law passed by another state has taken this strategy. Additionally, the bill does not punish women who obtain abortions. Our Governor Cuomo is currently under investigation for sexual misconduct. He has controversies for handling of nursing home deaths during the pandemic and a massive book deal. We all know he calls himself a Catholic, yet we also know how bad his attitude and what he's done to make abortion so available in the state. He is up for election next year. We need a governor like Texas Governor Greg Abbott. I ask everyone here who cares about life that they will get involved in that election and never have a governor like him again. Thank you.
Thank you. Donna Kerner, Donald Martell following, and then Devin Chase. Good evening.
Hi, Donna Carney.
I apologize.
It's okay.
There are some names I can't read here, and I'm going to mess up.
It's
Sorry.
okay. Yeah, thank you for listening to us, and thank you for letting us express our thoughts and all. And thank you, everybody in here, for being so nice and polite and everything. It's nice. Anyway, I oppose this abortuary, and one thing that I always think about is that, imagine, I have a puppy dog that I love very much, little Teddy, and I would defend his life just like I would, a family member or a friend or whatever. Imagine if they're building a scientific lab instead of an abortuary there, and what they're doing is just, some people don't want their dog to have any more puppies, or their cat to have any more kitties, whatever. So the people bring the animals in there, and the puppy mother and cat, whatever, are given pain medication, and so the doctor goes at it, puts in the utensil, destroys the puppy with no anesthesia whatsoever, no pain medication for that animal. Same thing happens with an unborn baby, a human baby, is that they don't give that baby any anesthesia, no pain medicine. The poor thing suffers, and it's a excruciating way to die. I cannot imagine having a utensil going at me, because the baby senses that, and the babies have a beating heart at 4 weeks, and then their nervous system forms, and then they can feel pain, just like an animal can feel pain. And everything wants to live. You see an ant walking along, or a butterfly, and you try to grab it, whatever, it wants to get away, it wants to live. And the same thing happens to an unborn baby when it's being aborted. I have family members that have had abortions. I have friends that have had abortions, and I know that down the road they're going to have some side effects from that. And I'm here if they need me to to be with them and help them through stuff, because I know that they did it because they thought they had to for whatever reason, but yet they have side effects later. I have some friends that have some psychological issues, and with anger and different things. So, and if this was happening to animals, I'll bet you the majority of all of us, upstairs and downstairs and outside, would be out there protesting against such cruelty, to have these animals exterminated in such a cruel way. They could be adopted out, just like the little children could be adopted out. One of my nieces they've been trying to have a child. They've gone through everything to try to have a baby, and they just want a baby. But there's so many babies that are aborted, and it's a sad thing, and it's evil. And so I mean, why aren't the people that are protesting these animals at labs that are being abused and stuff and stuck in cages, why don't they feel the same way about human life, is what I can't understand. I just can't figure that out. I don't get it. I guess it's an issue of discernment, I suppose, of what's right, what's wrong, and having a formed conscience, I guess. But anyway, Susan B. Anthony is one of my heroes. She was against abortion. She called it child murder and infanticide in her day. And she wrote a newspaper called The Revolution. She was friends with Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Seneca Falls. And they wrote against abortion. They saw it as atrocity, and it really hurts mothers. It hurts the mothers, and it kills the babies. So, abortion is it's a mutilation. It's a shame that these kids are thrown out. A lot of them are minority children, black children and Hispanic children, and they're just perfect little human beings, with a heart, soul, mind, and everything. And so anyway, I'm going to be out. If this thing is approved, God forbid, I ask you to please think about it and consider it, because it would put it would cast a bad aura around Brighton, or any town for that matter. I live in the town of Ogden, New York. So I'll be out there in front protesting if this thing does go through. And pro-life people are peaceful people. We're not the kind that injure people and burn down buildings. And if anybody does that in our group, it's like, go home. We're not into violence at all. The majority of us, 99.9% of us. So we will be out there protesting peacefully and praying. And so I do pray that you all please take that into consideration, because it's the killing of an unborn baby. It's murder. So I would hope that somebody would have defended my life. If my mom were going to abort me, she never would have. She was going through a hard marriage problem when I was conceived. And yet, I said to her one day, when she was alive, of course, when she was alive, thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me birth. And she was a beautiful, loving mother, and she started to cry. She said, what else? I never would have done anything else, Donna, so God bless her. She's a good lady. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Donald Martell, please, and then Devin Chase and Bernie Hevron.
Hi, my name is Donald Martell, and I am speaking today in full support of the proposed Planned Parenthood alongside dozens of my comrades. I want to start out by saying that healthcare is a human right, and Planned Parenthood is the most inclusive provider of healthcare in the country. As an organization that provides affordable healthcare to millions, it is imperative we ensure this healthcare facility is built. As someone who has sought out testing and subsequently treatment, I can give personal testimony to the fact that Planned Parenthood provides cheap care with great compassion and inclusivity without discrimination or judgment. This is not something a crisis pregnancy center can say. Crisis pregnancy centers are manipulative organizations that seek to intercept pregnant women seeking information about abortions and pressure them into carrying the fetus to term. They feign being a legitimate healthcare clinic in order to get pregnant people inside where they are manipulated, abused, and lied to about what their options are in regard to their pregnancy. In 2017 alone, Planned Parenthood provided healthcare to 2.4 million patients and provided more than 4.7 million tests and treatment for sexually transmitted infections, nearly 300,000 breast examinations, more than 270,000 pap smears, and provided birth control to nearly 2 million people. Nearly 75% of all patients who report their income live at or below the federal poverty line. This facility will be a critical safe space where the people of Brighton and the surrounding areas can get the excellent treatment they need, regardless of socioeconomic class, race, creed, or gender expression. As someone who cannot get pregnant and carry a child, I fully support the right for anyone who is able to get pregnant to access abortion services if they so choose. What other people do with their own bodies is not my business, it's not your business, and is certainly not the business of some religious fanatics hell-bent on controlling the lives of pregnant people. If you don't want an abortion, don't get one. No one is forcing you to. If you're pro-life and get pregnant, don't get an abortion. No one is forcing you to. Shut your mouth about what other people want to do with their bodies. These people are not pro-life, they are anti-choice. Just look at some of the pro-life people here. Most of them can't even wear a mask correctly. They don't have vaccinations. And
Okay, all right.
they want
Please,
control
please.
and power over people. It's as simple as
we've-
that. How ironic that this person right here is wearing a freedom shirt while simultaneously advocating for disallowing
All right.
people with uteruses control over their own bodies. If you
Don.
don't want an abortion, don't get one. And if you're concerned about police using their
Don.
resources on your
Don.
protest, then don't protest. So I ask you all, who are you going to side with? The people against freedom of choice? The people who just last week compared abortion to the Holocaust? The people who yell and scream at people
Don, wrap
going
it
into
up.
Planned Parenthood for care and shame them for an extremely difficult decision? Or are you going to side with the people who are fervently pro-choice, pro-autonomy, pro-healthcare, and pro-women? The choice is yours. I ask you to move forward with this facility and ensure that it gets built. Your community needs it. Thank you.
We appreciate, please. We appreciate you coming out, expressing your point of view, but you were disrespectful, and I ask everyone to please respect the opinions and the points of view of others. That was disrespectful. Okay, thank you. Mr. Glick. All right. Devin Chase, please. Devin Chase. And then Bernie Hevron, and then Rachel Rosen Simpson, please.
And before you start, just a quick comment. Folks, we're all going to hear things that we don't like tonight. And we're just going to need to listen to them politely and respect the fact that other people have the right to have opinions, right or wrong, different than ours. So please,
Excuse us.
Captain, would you have a chat with this
Disrupting the
gentleman,
meeting,
please?
please.
Yes. Thank you. I think he needs to have a chat outside. Thank you.
Yep. Devin,
Hi.
good evening.
My name is Devin Chase. I live at 403 Benton Street. Last week, I came to this very hall this Wednesday to advocate for Robin Wilt, and then I heard some of the arguments of the pro-choice here today, and decided to make my appearance again today. I'm here to quite firmly and unequivocally say I'm for and support of Planned Parenthood. To refuse opening up a medical service that provides birth controls, STD checks, pregnancy tests, health screenings, and generally providing medical and sexual education for low-income constituents should be enough to override the complaints of any opposition. But since we are going to talk about abortion, let's talk about it. First, some statistics. About 30% of the women in the United States since 1840 will get abortions. And of that 30%, 7 in 10 will be mothers. That's having at least one child beforehand. And as reading that statistic first time, it's not something that was brought up to me. It's a little hard to demonize mothers. 90% of all abortions occur within the first 2 weeks, when it is less than the size of a kidney bean. It's just a clump of cells. Catholics have abortions at the same rate as the general population also. Just want to get that one in there. Young women under 18 are about 7% of those getting abortions. Low-wage, unemployed, and uninsured people get more abortions than those of higher paid or better medical insurance due to reliable birth control being expensive in this country, and multiple visits to the doctors. Black people also have abortions in higher rates than white people due to job discrimination and less likely to have reliable contraception in their reach. And I also wanted to stay on that topic as well, because something that I heard last week was that black babies are being in droves of genocide. I heard someone say that it is comparable to the Holocaust, and I thought that was quite outrageous. And I wanted to do a quote from a book I have. It's called Without Apology by Jenny Brown. And this is by Dr. Willie Parker, an abortion practitioner who is African American, takes particular exception to these claims, saying that people behind black genocide charges are using women of color as pawns in a much bigger game, for they understand too little of the foot soldiers in the abortion debate do. In abortion politics, all women are sisters, linked by their ability to bear children. If the anti-abortion group can change the terms, framing it as systemic racism perpetuated by big healthcare institutions against black people, then they can change the laws around abortion and no one will intervene, not even white women who need abortions too. I also wanted to quote as well that, and what's something I have heard as well, and I'd like to posit, is that if many of these people, many in the group that are advocating against Planned Parenthood, were truly, genuinely, honestly concerned about fetal pain, where they were truly concerned for women's health, and sincerely bothered that women are having abortions for economic reasons, that they would provide and advocate for free contraceptives and more effective contraceptives with fewer unpleasant side effects and effective, safe, easy birth control for men. Sex education that encourages the use of contraceptives, presents clear pros and cons, and makes condoms an expectation for men, along with birth control available in high schools. Free and easily available morning after pills, easy and free access to early abortions, including pill abortions, which you can do as soon as you know you're pregnant, eliminating all wait times, and universal health care, child care, and paid parental leave. And I'll finally leave on this final quote. It was come from a Seattle woman who organized Shout for Your Abortion in 2015 with Lindsay West and Kimberly Morrison, stated in a Facebook post, "Like a year ago, I had an abortion, and I remember this experience with near inexpressible level of gratitude. I'm telling you this today because the narrative of those working to defund Planned Parenthood relies on the assumption that abortion is still something to be whispered about. Plenty of people still believe that on some level, if you are a good woman, abortion is a choice which should be accompanied by some level of sadness, shame, or regret. But you know what? I have a good heart, and having an abortion made me happy in a totally unqualified way. Why wouldn't I be happy I was not forced to become a mother?" Thank you, and have a good day.
Thank you, Devin. Next is Bernie Hevron, followed by Rachel Rosen Simpson, and then Heather Coyne.
Hi, thank you. I'm Bernie Hevron. I live on 623 Bonnie Bray Avenue here in Brighton. I teach in Brighton. I work here. I've been here since 1991, and I firmly oppose the building of Planned Parenthood in this community. Some of the statistics we just heard are off. 1 million people helped by healthcare with Planned Parenthood is not a big number. Healthcare facilities around the country help tens of millions of people, but the number of abortions that they do provide around the country, 330,000 last year by their own annual report. Also, let's be clear why Planned Parenthood wants to build here. It's on their website that they are moving into upstate New York and into California, where abortion is legal and can be done right up until the last term. So we're going to be bringing people from neighboring states, Ohio, Pennsylvania, where they know restrictions are on down the line. We've got Supreme Court cases coming up, and those restrictions, like Texas, could come to Ohio, to Pennsylvania, to other states, and the people will come here to get abortions. How does that serve the Brighton community? That's not our community. We oppose it. And someone wrote a letter last week saying, Planned Parenthood sent out a letter to all their membership saying that there are people not even from Brighton who are opposing this. So let's rally. Let's get everybody down here and show our support for Planned Parenthood. I live here. I know lots of people who live here. Not everyone could be here, but lots and lots of people in Brighton oppose this building of this facility. It's going to be a big problem. You can see how divided we are right now. Just in this room, you can see the division. It's not going to go away. It hasn't gone away. It's been here for a long time. And just to give myself a little credibility here, I am an adoptive father. I'm a single father. We adopted, and my wife passed away. So I know how tough it is to be single and to schedule, field hockey and doctor's appointments and all those things, and get my child scheduled with all her activities. It's not easy. I had to give up a lot, and people do give up a lot when they want to raise a child. If we really want to support women in this community, let's help Compass Care. Let's help Margaret Home. Let's help Focus Pregnancy Center downtown. Let's get out there and help mothers who are in need, and walk with them. But to just say, yes, everyone should have an abortion, it's not okay. It's just not okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernie. Rachel Rosen Simpson, then Heather Coyne is on deck, and then Emily Gerlach. Good evening.
Good evening. Thanks for enduring the full spectrum of all of us this evening. My name is Rachel. Is that better?
Thank you.
I'm a graduate of the Brighton schools, and my parents and little sisters still live in Brighton in my childhood home. That's my mom back there supporting me tonight. I am here tonight as a member of the Rock DSA Soch Femme Collective to voice my support for the newest location of Planned Parenthood opening in Brighton, and to briefly share my personal story as an explanation for my support. After I was raped at university, I ended up moving back home to begin the hard work of recovering from trauma and heartbreak in hopes of regaining enough stability to finish my degree and move on with my life. Unfortunately, I did not have health care that covered mental health services, and there were also no free support groups at the time for rape survivors. The only place I could access therapy was through the rape crisis services offered at Planned Parenthood, now known as Restore. And they allowed me to see a wonderful counselor named Carol for free every couple of weeks for almost a year, which helped save my life. To those who are opposed to Planned Parenthood, they have a myopic view of the life-saving work they do to provide holistic health care to those who otherwise would not have access to it in our for-profit healthcare system. It is apparent to me that people who claim to be pro-life obviously care more about some lives and not at all about others like mine. To be frank, I was already nearly suicidal, and if I had gotten pregnant from being raped and did not have the safe option to have an abortion, I would not have survived to actively choose motherhood as I now have. I am 30 weeks pregnant today. Planned Parenthood helped me survive to make that choice with a loving and supportive partner, and on my own terms when I felt ready and stable enough for the challenges that come with parenthood. I am forever grateful for their support in this journey. It hasn't been easy. If you truly care about saving lives like mine, and also my unborn child's by extension, I hope you will all have the necessary compassion to allow others complete access to all Planned Parenthood services whenever needed. A new location in Brighton will be an amazing asset to advance healthcare access and equity in our community. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Rachel. Heather Coyne is next, followed by Emily Gerlach, and then Lois Verde.
Hi there, my name is Heather Coyne, and I live in the heart of Brighton. I'm commenting to express my ardent support for Planned Parenthood in Brighton. Our town supervisor has clearly expressed that the core values of Brighton include education and diversity and inclusion. I can think of no better organization to welcome to Brighton than one that keeps those values at the center of its mission. Whether someone needs low-cost gynecological treatment, information and help with hormonal health for menopause or gender-affirming care, sexual health testing, or legally protected pregnancy-ending options, Planned Parenthood will support that person with the care and dignity they deserve legally and morally. One of the issues with which our country struggles is access to safe, affordable health care, especially for communities of color. If our town is to live up to its expressed values, then we should be using every opportunity to expand that access. At this time, when states are restricting rights regarding reproductive justice, life-saving LGBTQ+ healthcare, accurate historical curricula regarding racism, and voting rights altogether, I sincerely hope Brighton will continue to welcome organizations like Planned Parenthood that advocate for and center education, compassion, and justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Emily Gerlach, then Lois Verde, and then Madeline. I think it's, Madeline, I apologize. It's Hollander, I think, but I'm not sure. Emily, how are you?
Good. My name is Emily Gerlach, and I'm a college student living here in Rochester. I'm here tonight to draw the board's attention to an aspect of the abortion controversy that is often overlooked. As a psychology major, my research often revolves around the consequences of stressful life events, and specifically the negative psychological and emotional impacts of the abortion procedure. New York abortion providers are not required under law to provide their clients with information on negative impacts to their mental and emotional health. 31 states, including more left-leaning ones like Michigan, Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Maine, have abortion-informed consent requirements. New York, the state with the highest rate of abortion, actually lacks any form of informed consent laws. Planned Parenthood, the quote, largest single provider of abortions in the US, consistently opposes abortion-informed consent laws. Why is this? Why would any organization that by their own statement claims to be a trusted healthcare provider and an informed educator want to deny any information to a woman with such a big life decision to make? What is it they know that their uninformed clients don't? If most women end up at a Planned Parenthood as the result of an unwanted pregnancy, the stress they are already undergoing is only going to be magnified by the physical trauma of an abortion. The human brain often seeks to suppress trauma like this, so that a post-abortive woman may only realize decades later how her abortion has impacted the past 10 to 20 years of her life. Thousands of women per day experience the psychological and emotional shocks of induced pregnancy termination. And the association between abortion and an increase in mental health problems is statistically significant. This means that there is at least a 95% chance that there's a direct relationship between abortion and negative mental health repercussions. An abortion interrupts a woman's hormonal cycle in a way that is similar to a miscarriage, but worse. The natural process of a miscarriage is more gradual than the sudden shock of a vacuum sucking an unborn child from a woman's uterus. A female body has little time to recognize this shock and therefore struggles to recover even more than it would from a miscarriage. Women who have undergone an abortion are consistently shown to be at greater risk of mental health issues. These include but are not limited to depression, anxiety, grief, suicidal tendencies, and post-traumatic stress symptoms. Undergoing abortion also places women at an increased risk for substance abuse disorders. Abortion is a complex event that I hope the board can recognize as harmful to women's health. Our economy-driven culture encourages women to suppress and even deny negative psychological responses to their abortions. Every woman in Brighton contemplating abortion should be well informed about the documented risks prior to the procedure. If Planned Parenthood were indeed the trusted healthcare provider and informed educator they claim to be, then they should be obligated to inform a pregnant woman that choosing to terminate the life of her unborn embryo or fetus could significantly impact her mental health. All feminists, all people in Brighton, no matter their beliefs, should welcome opportunities to provide women with impactful and vital information regarding their own reproductive health. Another Planned Parenthood will not, quote, preserve the character and quality of life in the town of Brighton's neighborhoods and business areas, nor will it protect the overall mental health of the women in the city. There are many true federally qualified healthcare clinics here already. I have a handout here for the board from the Guttmacher Institute, Planned Parenthood's own research arm, with information on informed consent requirements. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Lois Verde, Madeline, and then Deborah McDowell Hernandez.
Does this work?
Good evening.
Okay. Do my best to read it.
Good evening. Thank you for hearing me. I was a little complex as to why we are considering another abortion clinic in the area. And so I did just a little research on it and just a simple Google. And I found out that currently in Brighton area, there are already existing at least 8 OBGYN medical clinics with as many as 37 doctors representing those clinics. 4 of the 8 clinics are on South Clinton Avenue. At least 5 out of 8 mentioned OBGYN providers perform abortions. All provide full women's health services. That does not include the already existing Planned Parenthood clinic that is less than 5 miles away. To say we need Planned Parenthood in the area because of the medical services is clearly not true. In fact, Planned Parenthood does not provide as much holistic services as these other clinics. Now I want you to consider the abortion issue itself, especially in relation to the minors, which someone already has mentioned that we no longer need parental permission to give an abortion. According to the ACLU, there's 350,000 U.S. teenagers under the age of 18 become pregnant each year. Children in New York State no longer have parental permissions to have an abortion. They are making life decisions and possibly life-threatening decisions that could, and often do, affect the rest of their lives without the loving care of their parents and caregivers, possibly you. The Planned Parenthood loves to tell us how safe the procedure is, but there is a risk, and they note the risks. And some of those risks include, but not completely, this is just a small list that I want to bring out, is that it doesn't affect fertility, it doesn't cause problems to future pregnancies, and it doesn't cause premature birth or miscarriages. They do state unless there is a rare but serious problem that can happen, and they proceed to list these. I want to just bring your attention to these because it does affect the mental health of an individual later in life. And that is the damage they can do to the injury of your cervix, uterus, and/or organs. So what does the injury to a uterus do? According to the ASC fertility group in California, they're not political. They're not pro or against abortion, they're fertility. So they get people in that are wanting to have babies later in life. And so the information you find on that site is regarding that information, nothing about abortions. Well, except for facts. So what did they say about it? They said uterine scarring, which is what happens when they damage the uterine, quote, can also cause reoccurring pregnancy loss, miscarriages. It can enable you to conceive. It affects the functional lining of the uterus and can be a reason for infertility. They continue by confirming that the cause can be from prior abortions. Planned Parenthood's statement is clearly not true. It may be on a rare sense, but the fact of the matter is the child may never know until it grows up and has a baby or wants to have a baby. Then they find out they've had damage caused by the abortion. And I don't know if that's even ever listed in part of their statistics because it didn't happen or wasn't known immediately after. So my statement to you, not only does it damage their future ability for these children, but God forbid, should the child go home after a procedure, be dropped off since they didn't have to have an adult, a parent, a guidance to take them there. It could be a kid who drops them off at home while the parent is at work and the parent thinks the child is in school, and they go home and they hemorrhage. They hemorrhage. Who's there to protect them? Think of that. It's a horrible situation. So I'm asking you, please, to consider the two things that I brought before you. The area is already inundated with the abilities to get abortion. Inundated. I don't even know why this is on the board at all, why you guys are even considering this, because you're inundated with abortion abilities. And the second one is that Planned Parenthood's, which is their primary business, is abortion, is causing harm and danger to our children. Thank you. Oh, I do have the statistics here. I'm sorry, did you have a question?
No. If you want to leave any written
I do.
statements.
Yeah, the statistics I got that information from is all listed here.
We'll put it in the record. Thank you. Thank you. Next is Madeline, followed by Deborah McDowell Hernandez, and then Brooke Lewandowski. Madeline? My apologies, I can't read your last name.
No, it's okay. Okay. All right, hello. My name is Madeline Halencia. I am a college student, and I've lived most of my entire life in Fairport, New York. I'm here to address my concerns with the addition of a Planned Parenthood, and I would like to discuss how I could see it affecting the community of Brighton. Although some people may consider abortion to be health care, to those who are disabled in utero, it is not. As July 26th approaches, I will be celebrating the anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act as someone with a disabled brother. I am more than thankful for this act because of the protection and awareness it brings to the disabled. The Americans with Disabilities Act prohibits discrimination against people with disabilities in several areas, including employment, transportation, public accommodations, communications, and access to state and local government programs and services. And although this act is set in place to protect the lives and the dignity of the disabled, they are at the greatest risk of harm and discrimination in the womb. We update department regulations and construct architectural alterations in order to prohibit discrimination in the basis of disabilities in all services. However, we also continue to discriminate against the disabled by violently killing them in the womb. Why would we vow to protect the lives of the disabled, yet support a facility that is the biggest threat to their lives? This goes beyond discrimination and disrespect. This is the plain disregard for human life based on the discrimination of the disabled. For example, where prenatal testing reveals unborn children may be born with Down syndrome, 67% end in abortion, most of which are later term. These innocent children are increasingly being targeted and killed based on disability. I wish to live in and represent a community that celebrates the life of the disabled. I want to live in a place where I know people like my brother are respected and given all of the opportunities that they deserve. I want to know that there is a place where people like my brother are encouraged to find fulfillment in their lives, regardless of what society sees as a handicap. My hope is that one day the disabled, in and out of the womb, will obtain the respect and dignity that is their natural and constitutional right. The law in Iceland permits abortion after 16 weeks if the fetus has a fetal deformity. Because of this law, close to 100% of women who receive a positive test for Down syndrome terminate their pregnancy. And with a population of around 330,000, Iceland has on average just 1 or 2 children born with Down syndrome per year, usually after their parents have received inaccurate test results. What do these statistics reflect about Iceland's society? I think that it reflects that this country is proud of these statistics and celebrates its eugenic culture. Is this what the town of Brighton wants? Do we wish to be a community that encourages discrimination of the disabled solely because these innocent children do not fit the confines of normal? With all of this in mind, please consider the kind of facility we invite into this community. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out. Appreciate it. I really did mess up your name, didn't I? No, it's fine. Apologize. Deborah Mchale Hernandez is next. Brooke Lewandowski, and then Michael Jaffrin.
And Bill, I'm going to interrupt just briefly again with two announcements. First, I'm noticing more and more of the folks in this room are not wearing their masks over their nose and mouth. I know it's warm in here, folks, but our policy in Town Hall to keep us all safe is to be fully masked. Please place your mask over your nose and mouth unless you're at the podium speaking, at which time you can remove it, and then when you leave the podium, please put it back on. That applies for the folks downstairs as well. The second announcement is that I don't know if all of you know this, but this public hearing is being broadcast on YouTube. So if you are uncomfortable sitting here listening to the public hearing in this very warm room, you're free to go home and watch it on YouTube or watch it outside on your cell phone as you wish. Thank you.
All right.
Deborah, good evening.
Sorry.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. My name is Deborah Mchale Hernandez, and for full transparency, I am a proud employee of Planned Parenthood, where I serve as the Senior Director of Public and Community Affairs. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you, the board, as well as the other members of the audience. And I'd also like to take a moment just to thank the people who have come today in support of Planned Parenthood, or have written letters in our support, or who are standing outside in solidarity. I am not a resident of Brighton. I live in Rochester. However, I am a frequent visitor to Brighton. My primary physician is in Clinton Crossings. My neurologist is also in Clinton Crossing. And to set the record straight, I would like to just make a correction to the way that people have been referring to Planned Parenthood. We are a healthcare provider, we are a healthcare center, and not an abortion clinic. And I heard the same said of one of your residents not far from where we'll be, Dr. Morris Wortman. I am a former patient of his, and I was having chronic menstrual issues, excessive bleeding, and I was happy to go to his service, get his services, and get the problem corrected without a hysterectomy. I did not need him for an abortion, so his office provides more than abortions. Just wanted to state that. So, not a Brighton resident, but I do frequent Brighton often. And I've had the pleasure of collaborating with many organizations in Brighton, as well as individuals who are residents of Brighton. And many of the places I have collaborated with, as well as Planned Parenthood, are your places of worship. Places of worship that are for the Unitarians, for Jewish people. And I would like to just recommend or let people remember that Brighton is a very diverse community, and everyone in Brighton is not a Christian practicing Christianity. So there are many faiths in Brighton, and I think we need to be cognizant of that before we try to push morality and religion on others in our community. So, Planned Parenthood provides a range of healthcare services, as many people have already shared with you, everything from family planning to abortion, which is still legal in New York State and the US. So we provide a variety of services for youth as well as adults, and those services also include advocacy. We advocate for legislation that promotes access to healthcare, equitable healthcare, affordable healthcare. We also advocate for things like voter rights. We advocate for LGBTQ rights. So we are not a one-hit wonder or a single-lane organization. We do a lot by way of healthcare advocacy and education. And unlike fake clinics, which are also known as crisis pregnancy centers, we don't have to lure our patients. No one's being forced to visit Planned Parenthood, just as no one's being forced to visit Morris Wortman or Clinton Crossings. We would be a business standing there following all the business zoning compliance rules, and anyone who wants to visit us is free to come and visit us. And I would like to also say that our services are affordable. Everyone, well, not everyone, many have commented that there are so many healthcare providers in Rochester or the greater Rochester area. Well, unfortunately, all of those healthcare providers aren't necessarily going to provide a space that is welcoming to the LGBTQ population. People want to go where they feel honored, respected, and welcome. A lot of those places also aren't going to be able to help you if you have no money or insurance. So those are just things to keep in mind when thinking of Planned Parenthood and how accessible we are to the community. I'll keep this short. The only other thing that I wanted to just acknowledge is that we do a lot to support the communities that we're in. So again, education for youth, we have In Control in Rochester, we have The Connection in Niagara Falls, as well as Teen Reality Theater in Buffalo. And those are places that are youth drop-in centers that provide youth for a place for networking, access to free internet, but also extracurricular activities during the summer. We have several programs now up and running that are introducing urban youth to gardening and farming, healthy meals. We're still in a pandemic, but earlier in the pandemic, many of our centers were a source for food for families in need and just a source for students who may have been struggling to get their studies done while working remotely or studying remotely. The last thing I want to comment on, because obviously I am a Black woman, I'm an African American woman, and I've heard race brought up a lot this evening, killing of Blacks, of Black babies. And I just want to set the record straight on the Black Lives Matter narrative. It is offensive to me as a Black woman to hear people constantly twist the narrative to their advantage. The Black body has been policed and abused for centuries in this country, whether it was rape through slavery and the female body was used as a tool for economic gain. So I would just like to say that Black women, and all women I'm sure, but especially Black women would appreciate having agency on their bodies and having family planning be done on their terms and not having people push and pull their reproductive choices at their whim. So thank you for listening. And the only other thing I want to say to people who want to help the community, if you really want to help Black people, you want to know what keeps a lot of Black families up at night? Food insecurity. Go out, help people open more grocery stores in urban areas that are food deserts. Help parents who are working, who can't afford childcare, get affordable childcare. Do some lobbying, write some letters to your legislators. Do you know that about 200 kids in Rochester don't have beds to sleep in? I have several friends who work for school districts who've gone and done home visits and are literally walking over children because children are sleeping on the floor or on sofas. So if you really want to be active and do some activating in your community, go help those causes. And that's all I have to say. I appreciate your time, and thank you.
Thank you. Brooke Lewandowski, then Michael Jaffrin, followed by Carrie Perham. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Brighton Town Board Planning members. Impressive work on my last name. My name is Dr. Brooke Lewandowski. I use she, her pronouns. I live in Monroe County, and I vote. As a lesbian, I just want to say how grateful I am to see the pride flag outside. It made me feel really welcome, and I loved that. I come to you today wearing 3 hats. I'm a former Planned Parenthood patient. When I was a graduate student at Syracuse University, I wasn't able to obtain birth control from SU, and I was in an abusive relationship, and I'm so pleased that Planned Parenthood was able to provide me free birth control. I'm also the current board chair of Planned Parenthood of Central New York, Central and Western New York, and I'm also a sexual and reproductive health researcher, an epidemiologist at URMC. I'm pleased to be here today to thank you for your support of moving our clinic within your town limits. We've conducted extensive market analysis, which has found that Brighton is the very best new location for one of our clinics that provides sexual and reproductive health care to all people, regardless of their ability to pay and their individual identities, no matter what. The opposition often say that there are many other healthcare providers who offer the same services as Planned Parenthood. That statement is not accurate. Planned Parenthood provides services to patients regardless of their ability to pay. The same cannot be said about other healthcare providers. As a sexual and reproductive health researcher, I want to assure you that you've heard a lot of research this evening, which was incorrectly interpreted and misunderstood. I'm happy to correct this at another time, so feel free to reach out and I'll leave you my card. We're proud to provide well women visits, which include breast and cervical cancer screening, birth control counseling and methods, and abortion to support our community members' ability to plan their parenthood and care for their family. And we also have expanded transgender hormone provision and other care to my LGBTQ+ community. We really appreciate your support, and we look forward to a long, respectful, mutually supportive relationship with you as we serve your residents with care, no matter what. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Next is Michael Jaffrin, followed by Carrie Perham, and then James Appel. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. It's Michael Jaffrin.
Oh, that's an S.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Sorry for the poor handwriting. Thank you, Mr. Price, for this opportunity. Kudos to you on running an excellent meeting. I attended the Zoom meeting last month. You seem to have incredible patience and run an excellent meeting, so kudos on that. Longtime Brighton resident, as I mentioned in the Zoom meeting last month, and I had an opportunity last month to express some personal views, and a lot of people certainly tonight are expressing pro-life, pro-choice views. So once again, I'll try to perhaps offer some comments in keeping with the purpose of this planning board. So I implore the planning board to listen to the citizens of Brighton. We've heard many of them tonight. Some very, very good comments. We don't want a Planned Parenthood in Brighton any more than we would want a Classy Cat or a Show World in Brighton. And this is very much, I think, in your purview as the planning board. You know, religious views aside. A couple speakers ago was criticizing people for sharing religious views. It's perfectly fine that they do. Religious views aside, we don't want a Planned Parenthood in Brighton. Planned Parenthood is not health care. Use whatever words you want. It's not health care. Abortion is surgical contraception. The lone exception being when it's the mother's life in danger. And certainly some people accept that as an agreeable reason. The vast majority of cases, it's surgical contraception. We are very proud, I think, as Brighton residents, of the strong healthcare facilities that are in our town. Many thanks to the University of Rochester, I think, right, for being such a large presence in Rochester and in Brighton. So we are proud of the healthcare facilities in the in the Clinton and Westfall area especially. It's a robust area for health care. Abortion is not health care. Another speaker previously tonight made the size argument. The size of a peanut, I think he said. That's been debunked, that argument. Size does not matter. It's life, it's human life. We've heard the my body, my choice argument. That's been debunked. There are many things that by law we cannot do with our own bodies. So that argument has been debunked. They're weak arguments. You have a half a dozen pages of letters apparently that you've received, probably some 6 dozen letters, some in support, some in opposition to this facility. But again, listen to the citizens of Brighton. Whatever your individual positions might be on this planning board in regard to abortion, listen to the citizens of Brighton who don't want this facility for pro-life reasons sometimes, quality of life reasons all the time, pro-family reasons, social justice reasons. It's the ultimate social justice debate. For human equality issues. So please listen to the citizens of Brighton. And thank you again.
Thank you, Mike. Next is Carrie Perham, followed by James Appel, and then Dorothy Hayes. Is Carrie here? Thank you.
Hi, everyone. How are you?
Good evening.
Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah. Oh, I'm good. Okay. Hi,
you're up.
everyone. My name is Carrie Perham. I'm on the board for Feminists Choosing Life of New York. We are a statewide human rights coalition that engages in grassroots activism to promote pro-life feminism and the core principles of nonviolence and non-discrimination. I currently live in the city on Oxford Street. As a young woman who seeks the same services that women's healthcare facilities offer, I can tell you for certain that Planned Parenthood does not provide comprehensive health care, and there are several other facilities in and around Brighton that do. A Planned Parenthood is simply not needed in Brighton, New York. Planned Parenthood will mislead you into thinking that they offer full service health care like cancer screening. This is false. They do breast exams, which any other family doctor can do, but they do not do mammograms. Let's be clear. The difference between Planned Parenthood and a federally qualified health center is one thing: abortion. Planned Parenthood is not needed for women's health care services. Planned Parenthood is not needed for reproductive health care, like STD testing or birth control. Planned Parenthood does only one thing that you can't get anywhere else, which is abortion. And you still have that. There is an abortion clinic right across the street on Clinton Avenue. Why do we need 2 abortion clinics in the same location? Besides that, there's one 8 minutes east of Brighton, UR Medicine Women's Healthcare Practice, and of course, Planned Parenthood 10 minutes north of Brighton in University Avenue. Why do we need so many? Is this a really good use of the building and the land at Westfall? Is it worth the negative impact on the surrounding businesses? Here in my hands, I have our Women's Guide to Healthcare brochure created by Feminists Choosing Life of New York and Feminists for Nonviolent Choices. This brochure, which I'll give to all of you, each of the board, is specific to the Western New York and Rochester region. It lists several actual comprehensive healthcare centers in our area. 15 in total comprehensive healthcare options in Rochester. Is this not enough? Are we really in need of a falsely advertised comprehensive health care clinic? Think about it. Here are the towns in Rochester that do not have, in the Rochester region that do not have a Planned Parenthood: Webster, Greece, Henrietta, Penfield, Fairport, Irondequoit. Why is it that they don't have an abortion clinic? The town of Brighton is clearly overcompensating for nearby towns whose citizens don't want one. Why do you think the one in Greece closed? Please take a look at the numerous healthcare clinics that surround us and ask yourself if this is really what Brighton needs, what I need, because I can tell you that it is not more abortion clinics. If you would like a brochure, I also have more than enough here for everyone. I have several of those. We also recently launched an app called Women's Guide to Healthcare, where you can select the service you want, and it connects you with the nearest clinic in Rochester or Buffalo. These are the places that do the business you want. These are the places that provide the services you want for your women and children, not Planned Parenthood. Besides this brochure, I also want to give each of you a water bottle with a quote from Alice Paul, the author of the Equal Rights Amendment. She said, "Abortion is the ultimate exploitation of women." Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Can we accept this? Thank you. All right, James. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is James Appel. I am the Messianic Rabbi of a congregation, Shema Israel. It's a Messianic Jewish congregation on Edgewood Avenue. We just moved in after buying the former facility of Edgewood Free Methodist Church. So we have a congregation of people who are very much opposed to having an abortion facility in the town of Brighton. I want to say, first of all, thank you to all of you on the planning board. I am amazed at your endurance and your willingness to stay for so long and listen to so many people. So kudos to you. I think you're doing a great job. I'm sure you didn't expect this when you signed up to be on the board, but here we are. What I'd like to bring up today is a word that has often been spoken, as we've heard from people, and for the board to consider this word inclusion, and I would say diversity also. As a rabbi, there are often times when I have to take into consideration disparate views. People who believe this and people who believe this, and they still have to live together, get along together to be part of the congregation. And it is a difficult task, and I've learned some things over the years of how best to do that. Perhaps I've learned the most of how to do it from my wife in our marriage. Just to give you an example, I love to travel in mountainous areas and look at beautiful views and lakes and hills. I'm sure many of you like to do that too. But my wife suffers from car sickness. And so if we were to go visit the Adirondacks and drive through those wonderful high peaks areas, she would be getting sick and not very happy. So we don't do it, because even though that's something I like to do, that's something that is really, really abhorrent for her. And as what I see here happening, and I'd like you to consider, is that we have lots of people expressing well thought out views as to why having an abortion facility here in Brighton would be a good thing. There's more convenience, it would be helping poor people, all these wonderful things, which they, of course, hold as very valid views. On the other hand, you have a large number of people, as you've seen here today, who believe that an abortion facility is a place where people are murdered. And it is an abhorrent thing that vexes everyone who has that opinion. Whether you agree with it or not, I think you can understand how if you have that opinion, it vexes you to have that in your town. It vexes you to be something that your town taxes support, because our town taxes do support the upkeep of this place. So I would just like to have you consider the gravity, let's say, of one set of opinions versus the gravity of the other set of opinions. And just as we don't travel on mountain roads when we go on vacation, to be able to see that there are people who are part of this town who, for whom this is something that is very serious and very vexing. It's not just a matter of convenience or of something that will help a few people. It's something that really puts us over the limit of what we can put up with. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Next is Dorothy Hayes, followed by Gabby Lara and Deanne Joy.
Good evening, and I'd like to echo the rabbi's comments on your patience and endurance. This is really, for us, even just staying around, it's long, and I really appreciate that. I'm not a Brighton resident, but what happens here is of consequence to me. not only because family and friends live here and that I come here for shopping and doctor's appointments, that I have 6 grandchildren that go to Elmwood Pediatric Group, which is right in that same area. But because I'm also a sidewalk advocate. I'm co-director of Rock, Love Will End Abortion, which is a sidewalk advocacy group that's regularly in front of the abortion industries here in Rochester. And I see firsthand that Planned Parenthood doesn't offer reasonable, long-term solutions for men and women. As is certainly obvious this evening, Planned Parenthood isn't a benign healthcare organization. Their reason for being is abortion. Their business is to kill children, but they play that fact down instead to try to convince the public that they're essential health care, that other providers are fake or inadequate. The only thing they bring to the table is the one thing they're trying to hide: abortion. There'll be no benefit here. They will not benefit Brighton. They're dishonest. When you just look at how they tried to sneak into the town. All 10 members of the Westfall Medical Realty LLC have the same last name, Westfall. It's a little suspicious. They're notorious for not reporting the rape of young girls. My daughter-in-law was pregnant as a result of rape when she was 15. She told those at the clinic that she had been raped, and there was absolutely no support or reporting to authorities. That's a huge selling point for the sex industry and not a desirable element to encourage into your community. They also offer limited health care, contrary to what you hear from their employees, and nothing that's not readily available from dozens of other nearby providers, many of whose purpose is to serve the underserved. If you search federally qualified health centers, you will see there are dozens of these facilities throughout Rochester, and their purpose is to provide good, comprehensive health care. Monroe County even has free walk-in clinics for STD testing right down the street from the proposed site. As a sidewalk advocate that sees the needs of these predominantly young women of color, the needs they face, and how easily they're dismissed after their abortion, it makes me cry. Planned Parenthood has one solution, and it isn't progressive, it's barbaric. That's why we're on the sidewalk, to educate and to support women throughout their pregnancies and after, and that's why we will continue to be here. Abortion isn't victimless. When you applaud abortion, you're applauding the victory of the strong over the weak, the powerful over the defenseless, and we stand for the defenseless. I also think your community has a right to know. Do the businesses surrounding Westfall know who's moving in? And when you look at your front, on the step, what will be coming with that? Since the Reproductive Health Act was passed and removed essentially all obstacles to abortion and late-term abortions, which are no longer required to be done in hospitals or by physicians, do you know how late in the pregnancy they will be performing abortions and how they plan to dispose of the remains? It appears from the plans of the Planned Parenthood on University Avenue that the aborted children are put through some kind of grinder and then disposed into the sewer system. Is that the plan for the proposed site? California and Florida are starting to investigate what this is doing to their water systems. How will this affect yours? Will they be supplying bodies and body parts for research as they have in Pittsburgh? Will they be compensated financially as they are in other areas of the country? I know this is a volatile issue, and I know Planned Parenthood is a rich, powerful, intimidating organization, but I hope you will give this careful consideration. As the saying goes, women deserve better than Planned Parenthood, and I believe Brighton does too. Please deny Planned Parenthood access to your good town. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy. Next is Gabby Lara, followed by Deanne Joy, and then Amy Yosha. Let me just see, I don't know is Gabby here? Okay. She may be outside. We can come back. Is Deanne here? We'll come back to, I'm looking lost because I'm seeing things happen in the back behind you all. Apologize for that. Good evening.
Hello.
I'm not sure who you are, so please introduce yourself.
Yep. My name is Deanna Joy.
Thank you.
And I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Rochester, co-director of Rock Love Will End Abortion, and a certified educator, mentor, and coach. I am active in the local sidewalk ministry, and I want to share a bit of my experience being present over the past year outside of the University Avenue Planned Parenthood and at the past Greece facility. Planned Parenthood is a racist organization based on their founder, Margaret Sanger. Margaret Sanger was all about eugenics, elimination of the black race. She spoke at Ku Klux Klan meetings and considered blacks as, in her own words, weeds of society. One young lady who discovered this prior to her appointment decided not to go into Planned Parenthood because she wanted to be true to her roots. Margaret Sanger would be proud of the work Planned Parenthood is doing today. Monroe County's Black community is on the path to extinction. Our population meets the International Union for Conservation of Nature's Red List criteria for an endangered species. More than 1 in 3 black children are missing from our families due to abortion. In Rochester, 36% of black pregnancies end in abortion. Racial and ethnic minorities represent a total of 24% of the population of females of childbearing age in our county, but have 65% of the abortions. Also, from our sidewalk presence, there are many unhappy neighbors. Some sidewalk advocates, including myself, use voice amplifiers to assist us in reaching out to the women and men coming and going from Planned Parenthood, to share community resources and better health care facility options. The neighbors do not like the noise from the amplifiers, but also they are bothered by the many cars that honk as they drive by. The neighbors have expressed these things to be a nuisance to them that disrupts the peace of their neighborhood. I also want to mention and bring to your attention the increased police presence on University Avenue. And I have also been there on different occasions when the ambulance had to be called. One of those times, even a fire truck arrived prior to the ambulance arrival. You can be assured that increased use of police and ambulances resources will be needed in Brighton if the Planned Parenthood comes here. I just want to leave you with this question. Is Planned Parenthood an organization that aligns with Brighton's mission? And do they reflect Brighton's core values? I do urge you to say no to Planned Parenthood in Brighton. Thank you for your time, and thank you for listening. Have a great night.
Thank you for coming out. Appreciate your time. Thank you. Is Gabby here? Thank you, Gabby. Good evening. Please.
Good evenings, member of the Town of Brighton Planning Board members, and thank you for the opportunity to address you today. My name is Gabby Lara, and I am the Students for Life Action State Captain and Brighton Residents Against Violence Outreach Coordinator. We stand together today to express our opposition for the initial plan to have another potential abortion facility to be built in the town of Brighton. Students for Life Action and BRAVE has grave concerns about the abortion industry controversy sweeping across the state of New York, with Planned Parenthood committing 354,871 abortions a year in the U.S., according to their public 2020 annual report that can be found on their website. This is 972 abortions committed each day, 71 per hour, and one baby killed every 89 seconds. We are here to speak for our citizens and for our generation. Having lost 1 in 4 due to abortion, and we now face constant pressure to accept abortion as a solution instead of the violent, devastating problem that it is. This view is flawed. As you are all aware, another Planned Parenthood site is seeking to establish a new abortion business in Westfall Medical Park, which is stated to be Monroe County's most developed and prestigious medical corridor, representing medical-related practices. But medicine heals. It does not intentionally kill for profit. Therefore, I can firmly and confidently say that Planned Parenthood does not represent the medical community. Those who are under the false impression that Planned Parenthood is really a women's health clinic and not just an abortion vendor may think that women need Planned Parenthood, but we know better than that. We know that Planned Parenthood is not in the business of health, but of exploitation. We know that federally qualified health centers outnumber Planned Parenthood more than 13 to 1, providing more than double the services options as Planned Parenthood and serve 15 times as many patients as Planned Parenthood. Most importantly, federally qualified health care centers do not kill their patients. In the town of Brighton does not need Planned Parenthood. Everything Planned Parenthood sells and provides, except abortion, can be found in the nationwide network of federally qualified health centers at universally low prices. They provide basic health services such as STD testing, treatment, pregnancy tests, gynecological exams. In the Rochester region, there are over 15 federally qualified healthcare centers. For years, Planned Parenthood officials, staff, and surrogates have repeatedly promoted false information about the services they offer. For example, falsely claiming they do mammograms for women. They also are currently under federal investigation for the procurement and research involving fetal trafficking of children killed in late-term abortions. Planned Parenthood also has a history of not reporting medical emergencies of their abortion patients or delaying calling an ambulance during abortion emergencies. In every abortion, Planned Parenthood kills the child and endangers the woman's life. This is not prestigious health care. If every Planned Parenthood in the nation closed tomorrow, federally qualified healthcare centers would only need to take approximately 2 new patients a week to absorb their clients. Women in Brighton do not need Planned Parenthood. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all, and please support these reasonable concerns we have for our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabby. Up next is Amy Iosha, followed by Sean Weeks, and then Chris Belder, and I apologize, Belcher probably, sorry. Good evening.
Thank you so much. I'd like to offer my perspective today from several different viewpoints. I am a resident of Brighton. I am a family physician, and I am a very proud board member of Planned Parenthood of Central and Western New York. I feel tremendous pride that my town could have a Planned Parenthood. This is something that we bring today to the light. It is a place that does share Brighton's values, a place that represents inclusivity and empowerment. It is a place that anyone can access to have some of the most vulnerable conversations and receive care that is based on science. Some may argue that care should not be based on morals and values, but it is. The difference is that Planned Parenthood holds the value of compassion and the values that individuals have the knowledge about their own life, their own bodies, and able to make their own decisions. In my family medicine practice, I both love and admire my patients. They have taught me so many lessons. One that I carry today is to meet my patients where they are. Patients are telling us that they are here and that they need care. We need to show up. Please demonstrate that you value access and individuals' knowledge about their own health by approving our Planned Parenthood site here in Brighton. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Next is Sean Weeks, followed by Chris Belcher, and then Karen DeWitt.
Good evening. I appreciate your patience, again, as others have said. I am a resident of Brighton. I live at 555 Bonnie Bray Avenue. And one of the reasons we moved to Brighton was because of the education. We wanted to have our daughter to go to Brighton High School, and we appreciate the community here. One thing that we've heard a lot from people is about, just from the previous person, about compassion and having everyone have a choice. I think the reality is that I'm standing here for the future citizens of Brighton, meaning those who need a choice to be born, right? They can't take that choice on their own unless they're given that opportunity. So I'm here to represent the future citizens of Brighton who, unless they are given the opportunity to be born, will not have that choice to have their own choices in life. Without the gift of life, how can you choose? All of us should be grateful for our parents, for our moms, right? Because without the choice of being able to be brought into this world, we have no choice, we have no life, right? So my purpose is for you as the town board planning committee to consider, is it really worth building a facility or demolishing a facility that currently is, I believe, or was, a healthcare facility, to build another facility that is so-called healthcare, but their primary purpose is to end the life of a child. So I would hope that you consider this and consider all those residents of Brighton who have expressed the same concern. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out, John. Next is Chris Belcher. And please forgive me if I've got your name wrong, Chris.
No, you got it right. Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Chris Belcher, and my wife and I have been residents of Brighton for nearly a decade. We strongly oppose a Planned Parenthood coming into our town. There are numerous other providers that provide better service to those in need, that don't also end innocent lives. Not only that, but Planned Parenthood aborts minority babies at a higher rate than any other race. This is a grave social justice issue of our time. If this was something that Planned Parenthood was proud of, they would have openly promoted it instead of trying to sneak it in. Abortion is not healthcare, and women deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. I apologize, I didn't follow up on this. The next speaker is Karen DeWitt, followed by Sophia Alisi. Karen DeWitt. Okay.
Hello, thank you so much.
Evening.
My name is Karen DeWitt, and I've come tonight as a neighbor. I'm down the road in Penfield to encourage Brighton Planning Board to say no to Planned Parenthood. While Planned Parenthood purports to do more than other organizations to prevent unintended pregnancies and the need for abortion, Planned Parenthood is widely known as our nation's leading provider of abortions. In fact, they state on their website that we're proud to provide abortion services. According to the Guttmacher Institute, in 2017, 862,320 abortions were provided nationwide, 105,380 in New York State. This amounts to over 12% of the national abortion rate. Between 2014 and 2017, New York saw a 19% increase in abortion-providing facilities. According to the 2018-2019 Planned Parenthood report, abortion made up 95% of their pregnancy resolution services. Prenatal services accounted for 2.7%, miscarriage care 0.6%, adoption referrals 1.2%, cancer screenings and prevention services dropped by 69%, and contraceptive services dropped by 34%. Planned Parenthood can pocket up to $1,500 for a single abortion procedure, and it says on their website. And as shown in some undercover videos, there are a number of directing staff in the ranks who actively deal fetal tissue to researching firms such as STEM Express, Advanced Bioscience Resources, Biomex, and Novogenics, despite laws in their states against this type of practice. It's no secret that of all Planned Parenthood services, which have been discussed tonight by the opponents, abortion is the lucrative option for the community. And it's no secret that New York State has little restrictions on abortion, which means that it's a great ground for Planned Parenthood's business strategy. These facts give me loving concern for what Planned Parenthood plans to bring to this community of Brighton and to my neighboring community of Penfield. If those of us here were part of Planned Parenthood's abortion statistics, these seats would be empty tonight, our lives discarded in the name of health care. Brighton Town Board, Planning Board, please consider saying no to Planned Parenthood and considering if there's pressure for other women's health care to look into other options. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out, Karen. Next is Sophia Alisi, followed by Cecilia Lester. Good evening. Please, thank you. Good evening.
Hello, my name is Sophia. I live in Rochester. I'm here tonight to speak in support of Planned Parenthood. Being so vehemently pro-life doesn't make anybody actually pro-life. What I mean by that is that if all of the same people advocating against a Planned Parenthood being built actually wanted to reduce the number of abortions as much as possible, they'd be advocating for things like early and honest sex education, accessible and free birth control, paid parent leave, universal health care, the complete revamping of the foster care system, free universal child care, and more. People don't care about the conditions a child lives in after they're born. They don't care about the condition the mother and the family live in during the pregnancy or at any point really. They don't care at all about actually providing support or meeting community members' needs. They care about banning people with uteruses from making decisions about their bodies. Now, I understand that from the opposing perspective, if I'm being as objective as possible in recognizing the other perspective, that this is about banning murder and not banning abortion, but ultimately that is an opinion and people have to recognize that. This topic is controversial, and the fact of the matter is that a considerable amount of people in the medical field support abortion, as do a considerable amount of the general population. What ultimately is your opinion cannot rid other people of their bodily autonomy. Now, I clearly feel unwaveringly that abortion is not murder, but even if you disagree, you must understand that your opinion is not enough of a consensus to dictate the outcome of other people's lives. People with uteruses need to be able to make this decision for themselves. Now, I also feel that it's safe to assume that at the very least, a good portion of the people that oppose abortion do in the name of Christianity. However, I'd like to point out that in just 1976, the Southern Baptist Convention passed resolutions affirming Roe v. Wade. Christians, as a voter bloc, only turned against abortion after they were baited into doing so by right-wing politicians. According to Politico, there's stuff about this on NPR too. It wasn't until 1979, a full 6 years after Roe, that evangelical leaders, at the behest of conservative activist Paul Weyrich, seized on abortion not for moral reasons, but as a rallying cry to deny President Jimmy Carter a second term. Why? Because the anti-abortion crusade was more palatable than the religious right's real motive, which was protecting segregated schools. Unfortunately, this scheme was incredibly successful and still profoundly impacts American politics to this day. I'd also like to mention that abortions are not the only service that Planned Parenthood provides. They're one of very few accessible providers that are, for many people, the only means of obtaining birth control, getting STI testing, cancer screenings, pelvic exams, prenatal care, and more. The citizens of Brighton need and deserve to have a place where these services are accessible. And lastly, this is a little bit of a callback to some things that were said last week about people in the parking lot taking up space in the town. I hope that when you see those people, you take a moment to think about who they are and what they may be going through. These are people's partners who are there for moral support. They're people's families sitting in the car, maybe to give their loved ones some privacy while they're inside. Maybe they're me and my friends not long ago, piled in the back seat, trying to stop crying long enough to go inside and ask for an STD pregnancy testing after one of us had been raped. Reducing Planned Parenthood to being just one thing is inaccurate, and taking away many people's only means of getting life-saving health care is immoral. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia. Cecilia Lester, followed by Ellen Duncan, and then Paul Jason.
Hi, my name is Cecilia Lester, and I'm a Brighton resident who has lived in the Homemakers neighborhood for 7 years. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of Brighton Residents Against Violence and the over 1,300 citizens who have signed a petition urging the board to deny Planned Parenthood their proposed application this evening. The town authorizes this board to regulate the opening and operation of certain businesses so as to preserve the character and quality of life in Brighton. Brighton citizens value truth, justice, diversity, and inclusion. Planned Parenthood is an organization that routinely engages in conduct that compromises this ethic. As a multi-billion-dollar corporation that is financially incentivized to perform as many abortions as it can, Planned Parenthood is a medical facility unlike any other in America. Its unique conduct will have uniquely damaging repercussions for our community. The board must consider Planned Parenthood's application in light of what it does and how it does it. We must honestly examine this organization and its practices. Unfortunately, unlike Brighton citizens, truth is not a virtue that Planned Parenthood values. Planned Parenthood has engaged in a well-documented pattern of deceptive practices, both in their individual patient interactions and in their public relations campaigns and sloganeering. Unlike any other medical facility, Planned Parenthood must lie to gain entry into a community. Their initial application before the board made no reference of Planned Parenthood itself. According to recent accounts from NPR and CBS, Planned Parenthood routinely uses shell companies to conceal their identity in order to divert public attention away from their presence. What other healthcare facility would begin its relationship with the community shrouded by this kind of secrecy and deception? While a spirit of transparency is currently transforming access to medical information in all other areas of healthcare, Planned Parenthood has been willing to litigate to limit women's access to imaging of their own bodies. In addition, as documented by whistleblower Myra Rodriguez, and she's a former employee, Planned Parenthood's internal policy does not require patients to know prior to their sedation who will be present in the room and who will be performing and participating in their surgical abortion, whether this is a medical student, an intern, a nurse, or a physician. Unlike any other medical facility, Planned Parenthood lies about what they do. They consistently and falsely assert that they provide a much broader scope of medical care than their financial documents suggest. They minimize the outsized role that elective abortion plays in their business. Only before Congress, under penalty of perjury, did Planned Parenthood leadership admit that they do not offer mammograms, that their surgical services are predominantly abortion, and that 86% of their non-government revenue comes from abortion. Planned Parenthood must sell elective abortion procedures to healthy women with healthy pregnancies in order to remain solvent. Unlike any other medical facility, Planned Parenthood's $1.7 billion annual revenue depends upon ending a yearly average of 127,000 young Black lives. 73% of the women who seek abortion do so under financial duress. Poverty often coerces Black women to choose abortion, and Planned Parenthood capitalizes on this. Unlike any other medical facility, Planned Parenthood welcomes sex traffickers into communities. A Loyola University of Chicago study found that Planned Parenthood comes in contact with a volume of victims and perpetrators of sex trafficking second only to emergency departments. They attract sex traffickers and rapists because they have a reputation for turning a blind eye. Multiple court cases and undercover investigations reveal a pattern of Planned Parenthood aiding and abetting the worst kind of men. Unlike any other medical facility, Planned Parenthood attracts widespread and consistent protests on a daily basis. I know that you've been in here and you can't see what's going on outside, but I'll tell you, there are women out there making all sorts of suggestive gestures, yelling the F word, with an amplification system. They've been taking signs that I've created and writing on them and tossing them aside, okay? And as a parent, I mean, my pediatrician's office is directly across the street from that kind of behavior that will be coming. They come here. These crowds go where Planned Parenthood goes. At the University Avenue Planned Parenthood site, this has led to hundreds of 911 requests for service and consistent police presence to protect citizens' constitutional right to peaceful protest. Unlike any other medical facility, Planned Parenthood frequently disposes of clearly discernible human remains. Proper disposal of fetal remains is of such significance as to have been addressed by the Supreme Court in Box versus Planned Parenthood in 2019. The court affirmed that the state has a vested interest in their proper disposal. Against the wishes of Planned Parenthood, the court excluded fetal remains from the definition of, quote, infectious and pathological waste. Think about that. Planned Parenthood considers the corpse of a human child to be waste. What becomes of Brighton's ethic of inclusion when a line is drawn down the center of our town with privileged children being welcomed into loving arms at Elmwood Pediatric Group and poor and minority children are placed into Brighton's dumpsters? Alexander Solzhenitsyn wisely observed, violence has nothing to cover it itself with but lies, and lies can only persist through violence. Because of the violence that Planned Parenthood performs, it must rely on lies to obfuscate and confuse. As board members, your citizens have empowered you with the solemn responsibility to act on our behalf to maintain Brighton's integrity. In light of an honest understanding of Planned Parenthood, there is only one logical conclusion. This organization does not engage in practices that are consistent with Brighton's character, and their application must be denied. Thank you. I appreciate this. I know this has been a long night for you.
Thank you, Cecilia. Next is Ellen Duncan, followed by Paul Jason, and then Amelia Aquino. Thank you.
Hello.
Good evening.
Evening. My name is Ellen Duncan. I'm a Brighton resident for over 10 years and a member of BRAVE, Brighton Residents Against Violence. I have witnessed with my own eyes numerous ambulances arrive at the University of Planned Parenthood to take away women on stretchers. I was outside of Planned Parenthood when an ambulance pulled in to take a post-abortive woman away. The very next day, I saw yet another ambulance pull in to take another woman away. And these aren't isolated occurrences. I would hope that the character and dignity that I believed Brighton to have would demand better for women. I'm asking you to look into this before making a decision on Planned Parenthood's application. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out.
Hey, Bill, 1 second. She needs a break.
All right, it is 9:15, 9:14. We're going to take a 5-minute break. We'll be starting up again with Paul Jason and then Amelia Aquino. 5 minutes.
How many more we got to go? About 100? How many more we got to go? About 100?
Um,
Go down to Sheffield for a couple of pints and join.
Have you been in there?
Just for taking myself out.
Are you doing okay?
Yeah, I'm doing great.
Folks, we'd like to reconvene.
Right. I don't have such perfect memory as I used to have.
Ramsey, let's find, we have one board member that we need to get back, and then we will start up again.
Don't worry. I haven't seen the. Actually going right down and into your stuff. So.
I've been watching it slowly.
It's a planner, and I go, that's okay. It's got to go downhill. It's not here. Yeah. Always nice to know.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Have to do dehydration.
We're going to reconvene at this point. Excuse me. Thank you. Our next speaker is Paul Jason, followed by Amelia Aquino, and then Mary, I'm going to go with Sherman. Is Paul here? Excuse me. Good evening.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and thank you for letting me speak. I'm going to address my comments strictly to the site plan. This is the planning board. So my comments are brief, and I'm going to speak directly about the plan and its deficiencies. I am opposed to Planned Parenthood coming to Brighton. I reviewed the documents online submitted for review for the public. Excuse me. I did not see a traffic study completed for this location. Planned Parenthood's representative, Mr. Olek, declares that, quote, there is no anticipated substantial increase in traffic beyond current levels, close quote. And he says that in his letter in the documents. Frankly, this is not true. Planned Parenthood's clientele is not the same as the prior occupants of the site. Much of Planned Parenthood's business are walk-in clients, people without an appointment, who just simply arrive there and request services. And this is a very substantial part of their business. In addition to the regularly scheduled appointments, this is going to require additional parking spaces for these new people that keep coming in. Many of Planned Parenthood's clients arrive via public transportation, and they use ride-hailing services such as Uber and Lyft. And these services just come in and out, dropping people off, picking people up. Just constant in and out traffic. Something funny?
Please do not, please restrain yourselves in making outbursts. We really have had a fairly polite exchange of ideas, even though they're ideas that we may or may not agree with, so please, let's continue with that.
Thank you. So many of these clients, whether they have an appointment or just simply are showing up to request services, arrive via these Lyft ride-hailing services, as well as taxi cabs. Many of Planned Parenthood's clients also arrive by bus. Many of them come from the outer areas, from the city to the west, from the city to the north, from Henrietta to the south, from the adjoining suburbs to the east. And they arrive by bus, and the sidewalk areas are insufficient to handle and accommodate the increased pedestrian traffic, especially for handicapped people, people with a wheelchair, people who need assistance walking. And this is also especially, does not accommodate for winter travel. The sidewalks are very narrow. The Westfall road side has no sidewalk. As you can see from outside, and hopefully you were able to observe what was happening outside, the sidewalks become very crowded. and so pedestrians are unable to pass through. And Planned Parenthood should be required to expand the sidewalks, to make them larger, and to put a new sidewalk on Westfall Road to accommodate the pedestrian traffic, because it's their traffic that's impinging on the free access of people to come and go. So this should expand both the South Clinton Avenue and the Westfall Side Road. Many Planned Parenthood clients loiter in the parking area, waiting for clients inside. So they drop off somebody who goes inside and they wait in the car. Or for them to themselves gain entry for an appointment. And again, many of these are just walk-in clients. And Planned Parenthood should be responsible for ensuring that those who are loitering in the parking lot refrain from smoking tobacco and marijuana, which is now becoming very prevalent. And this affects innocent bystanders. This affects the other businesses in that area. So if a mom brings her children, having a doctor's appointment at one of the other locations, they have to run this gauntlet of the people loitering around Planned Parenthood. They also play very loud music, which is also a disturbance. Planned Parenthood should be required to ensure that these disturbances don't happen in their parking lot. And they need more parking spaces than what the plan shows. I also do not see any plans for signage for the property. None of that was included in the online documents. And Planned Parenthood should be prohibited from erecting large neon signs that do not fit with the community. And I'm sure that's up to, if they had their way, they'd put up a huge billboard so that everybody on the expressway could see it. And they should be prohibited from doing that. And that should be specified very clearly. Planned Parenthood has failed to include any plans for fencing and security cameras. Planned Parenthood typically turns their locations into high security fortresses. They put up fences, they put up large trees, they got cameras everywhere. They don't fit in with the neighborhood, does not fit in with the community. And they've not failed to disclose what they plan to do. And that is deficiency in the plan that they've submitted. And they should be required to amend that and to state their plans for signage, for fencing, for the large tree plantings they're going to be putting in there, as well as how many parking spaces that's going to take up. This next point, I think, is very important to a great number of people. Planned Parenthood has failed to indicate how they plan to dispose of the remains of the aborted children. This is a very sensitive issue. So for people like me, and for many people in the community, these are real children. There's no question about where life begins. We have thousands of years of empirical evidence that proves a person's life begins at conception, and a person's life begins at no other time and no other place. A person doesn't come into existence a week later, or 10 weeks later, or 3 months later, or 6 months later, or when they're born. Everything that they will be begins right there at conception. Everything. Without conception, there is no life, period. And so when these children are aborted, their remains should be treated with dignity. And they shouldn't be just thrown in the dumpster. And Planned Parenthood has failed to indicate how they intend to dispose of the remains. Because they're not going to call a funeral parlor. At the downtown location, there's a veterinarian clinic right across the street from Planned Parenthood. When an animal dies, they have an undertaker come to take the remains of the animal. The animal's treated with dignity, respect. That doesn't happen at Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood has simply said that they tend to follow the law. Planned Parenthood needs to disclose to the people of this community how they intend to dispose of the remains of these aborted children. This is very sensitive, very important, and these remains should not be treated in a haphazard way or simply thrown away. Planned Parenthood's proximity to a religious institution, McQuain Jesuit High School, their location near to this religious institution is not appropriate for this community. Brighton would not allow a pornography store or a strip club in this location. And it should not allow Planned Parenthood to locate there as well, because those things aren't allowed in Brighton, and neither should Planned Parenthood be allowed. Planned Parenthood's deception, their deception in this entire process, in failing to notify the community that its location is going to be used for an abortion clinic. They use the pseudonym, the shell corporation, Westfall Medical Realty. So when the hearings are advertised, nobody knows it's Planned Parenthood coming here. That's intentional. That's a deceit. It's not appropriate. It should not be allowed in our community. We do everything out in the open so that people can express what they want to say about what they want in their community and what they don't want in their community. And so when Planned Parenthood deceives the public and fails to say that they're the ones coming in and uses this nebulous shell corporation instead to hide their true intentions, it's not appropriate. And they should be required to re-advertise all of these hearings under their true name and what they truly plan to do to operate there and what type of business they're going to perform. And all the types of businesses they intend to perform, not just abortion. Because Planned Parenthood, one of their business practices is not to inform parents. And they intentionally tell that to young people. They go into the schools and they say to the young people, don't worry, we won't tell your parents. And so they come in there for these life-altering procedures. They come in for an abortion, and their parents have no idea. They come in for transgender services, and their parents have no idea. These are life-altering medical decisions. Parents are responsible for their children in all aspects of life. If a child has a tattoo or wants to take an aspirin, they need parental consent, except for these invasive procedures that Planned Parenthood skirts around informing parents of the truth of what they're doing. Planned Parenthood has failed to address any plans for security at this location. And Planned Parenthood is notorious for allowing violence against peaceful protesters and prayer groups. And you were able to witness that right here. All the swear words, all the pushing and shoving, all the getting in the face of other people who are just simply praying. Planned Parenthood needs to provide security for that. That's not a Brighton obligation to have our police go over there and have to take care of everything that Planned Parenthood's doing to try to make violence. And that's part of their game plan, is to provoke people. It's not right. And finally, this location should be required to pay property taxes on the full market value assessment for this location. It should not be given any tax breaks at all, any tax credits, any deferment of taxes. Because that shifts the tax burden to everybody else, to the residential taxpayers, to the commercial business taxpayers. And so they, in effect, subsidize abortion because Planned Parenthood fails to pay its fair share in taxes. And tax breaks have not been disclosed in the plans. Again, an omission, I think, on purpose. So in conclusion, Planned Parenthood is not a good neighbor, and they should be prevented from building an abortion clinic at this location. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Amelia Aquino, followed by Mary Sherman and Bill Keenan. It's not the same people, though. I see, okay, thank you. Good evening.
What's up, board members? What's up, audience? What's up, YouTube? What's up? What's up, board members? What's up, audience? What's up, YouTube? I am nothing but myself, so I talk frankly, and that's what you get. I would like to make it very apparent that there are 0 Black people in this room and 0 Indigenous people in this room. Also, that the board is completely white people and that there are 2 women here. All of you are seemingly cis, meaning that you identify with the gender that you were assigned, and you all, I'm not sure, but seem heterosexual, which I can't confirm. The reason I bring this up is because all of you speak for the people who are not here. This is not about you, and this is not about your views personally. You are on this board to speak for everyone in Brighton, which is more than just white people and cis people and heterosexual people. What's up? My name is Amelia Aquino. I am a proud Filipino. I use they, them pronouns, and I identify as gender fluid. I'm standing here to articulate that all of the things that Planned Parenthood provides will still happen even if Planned Parenthood did not exist. There would still be abortions. There would still be people trying to get testosterone and gender hormone therapy. So not having it doesn't mean that abortions, it just means that they'll happen unsafely, just like how we know in history with hangers, whatever they can do to get it out, because they feel that they don't want this child. I support Planned Parenthood because they provide safe, low-cost way to get gender-affirming hormone care, have safe sex, and get a safe abortion, and so much more. I am privileged to be here speaking today because there are so many voices and stories that you will never hear. None of you go past the red line. You all stay in the suburbs. You don't know how they feel. You don't know what they go through. They don't know how hard it is with money and with struggling and with the fear that if you did have your Black child, that they would be grown up in a white supremacist nation. That they are fearful that their child will have to worry about getting shot by the police. Planned Parenthood is pro-life. They are pro keeping people that come into their office safe, healthy, and alive. I do have to ask if you are pro-life, meaning anti-abortion, how are you supporting these babies after they're born? If you don't have this Planned Parenthood, are you building a homeless shelter? Are you building an adoption center? Because just because these babies are born doesn't mean that they have a life that they can do whatever they want. They might grow into a family that doesn't have the money, that won't have the money to support them, and they might get sick. These parents that are trying to get the abortion know this. They know that they can't afford a baby. They know that their mental illness can't support a baby. But if this baby is born, you send it to an adoption center? How many of us are supporting adoption centers? How many people are funding adoption centers? How many people are taking care of those kids and those teenagers who don't have parents, who don't have families, who won't get an education so they can be president or whatever you think that they can become? Because you're still giving them a life that they can't thrive in. I can't speak for everyone who's been to Planned Parenthood. I can only speak for myself. And when I've been there, they have been nothing but kind and compassionate and understanding. Some people can't tell their parents because their parents will hurt them. That's the truth. Not every parent is nice. Not every parent is supportive. Some parents will kick them out. I'm lucky to have a mom that when I came out as gender fluid is trying her best. But so many of my friends and community members are kicked out. And that's when we need to find our own families and support ourselves. And sometimes that's as young as 14, 12. So how are you helping them? I am here to show my support for Planned Parenthood because it is a safe resource for the people already living to live their life. If you are pro-life, be proactive for the living. Planned Parenthood reminds me that I am pro-choice. I am the only person that can say what happens to my body. None of you will see me tomorrow. None of you will tell me how to eat, how to walk. That's my choice of what I do with my body and my life. So what makes you think that you board members who don't know me at all can say what you're going to do with my body? If I want to get hormone therapy from a company, from a facility that I know is kind and nice and will accept me, why can't I have that opportunity? Why do I have to go to someone on the streets who knows that I'm desperate for it, and then I don't even know what's in it? But I want it so bad because I want to be myself and I want to feel like myself. I am pro-life because I support the living people who are trans, who are non-binary, who are gender fluid, Black, brown, Indigenous, Asian, incarcerated, every human being on earth who is alive already. I'm asking you to keep an open mind. This isn't just about you. This isn't just about the white parents in Brighton, in this suburban area that doesn't see the horrors and the pain that a lot of us go through outside of your own community. But just be kind. Be kind to everyone, even if you don't understand them. It's their choice to do what they want with their body. And that's why I'm here to support Planned Parenthood. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Amelia. Next is Mary Sherman, followed by Bill Keenan and Tim Hansen. Mary, please tell me I said that right.
Despite my bad handwriting, thank you. So I understand that part of the purview of the planning board is to determine whether a proposed project fits with the mission and values of the town of Brighton. And based on that, I urge the board to deny the Planned Parenthood application because Planned Parenthood has a long documented history of refusing to report cases of child rape and sex trafficking. Numerous undercover investigations across the United States by the organization Live Action caught on video Planned Parenthood failing to report child rape cases and sex trafficking. And you can verify this by Googling Live Action and Planned Parenthood, or also the founder's name, Lila Rose. And you can see the videos, and you can see this is documented. This is not made up. It's not hearsay. It's video. Besides the work of Live Action, individuals who had gone to Planned Parenthood for abortions confirm that child rape and sex trafficking experiences were not reported by Planned Parenthood. One child rape victim went public because she ended up suing Planned Parenthood for not acting on her report that her father was abusing her and raping her. Her name is Denise Fairbanks, and the case is Denise Fairbanks versus Planned Parenthood, and you can find that online. And what happened was her own father, was raping her starting at age 13. And at age 16, she became pregnant by him raping her. He took her and forced her to have an abortion at Planned Parenthood. She told the people at Planned Parenthood that he was raping her. They did nothing. They sent her home with him, and the abuse continued for 18 more months until her high school basketball coach filed a police report. I cannot imagine the physical and emotional trauma that that poor girl went through, especially after you tell someone, a supposed medical practitioner that you hope will help you, and got no response. I just can't imagine the trauma. So people that have experienced it, not having the reports made, as well as the organization Live Action confirm this. So eventually, Denise Fairbanks sued Planned Parenthood, and she stated that for 6 years, Planned Parenthood did everything possible to try to defeat my legal claims. That's unconscionable. As for Planned Parenthood and sex trafficking, there's a report by the Beasley Institute at Loyola University of Chicago, and somebody else referenced it. And that too, you can find it online. It's BEAZLEY Institute at Loyola University of Chicago. And they documented how sex traffickers forced their victims to get abortions at Planned Parenthood so as to get the girls and women back on the street as soon as possible. And one of the victims stated that, in this report, this victim stated that Planned Parenthood was chosen by the traffickers because, quote, they didn't, meaning Planned Parenthood, they didn't ask any questions. So again, these are documented instances of Planned Parenthood aiding and abetting child rape and sex trafficking. Denying Planned Parenthood's application does not mean that women will be denied access to reproductive services or abortions. The University of Rochester Medical Center, Strong Health, whatever its name is nowadays, they provide abortions, and it is highly doubtful that Strong URMC would fail to report child rape and sex trafficking. I cannot imagine that institution allowing those things to not be reported in accordance with state law. So denying Planned Parenthood's application means that you will be refusing to aid and abet sex trafficking and child rape. And you know, by the way, sometimes we think, well, this is Rochester, you know, sex trafficking, that's something that happens near the border areas of the country or in big cities. You know what? Google sex trafficking in Rochester, and you will find it's here. There were convictions as recently as February 2021 and December of 2020. So it's here. And that was only on the first page of what I Googled. Just two more quick points. Is that on the issue of choice, yes, a woman has a choice what to do with her body, and her choice is when she makes the choice to have sex. That's when the choice occurs. After that, it's a choice about what are you going to do with another human being's life if you should conceive. So there is a choice, and it's at the point you decide to have sex. And just quickly about the issue of Planned Parenthood serving low-income income women and seeming to be the only choice for low-income women. Medicaid covers pretty much every gynecological service a woman needs, including abortion. Medicaid pays for abortion. So the issue of income, moot point. So I encourage you to refuse the application of Planned Parenthood. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Bill Keenan, followed by Tim Hansen, and then Pastor Tom Burgo. What last names? Last names. You're not giving your full names. My apologies.
No problem.
Bill Keenan, I
Yes.
assume?
Hi, and I'm speaking on behalf of my wife, Kim. Also, we're asking you to not approve Planned Parenthood's plans for Brighton. As you probably know, there are no services that Planned Parenthood provides other than abortion that more than a dozen other Rochester area agencies also provide. We don't need another baby-killing facility in our community, a facility wherein Black women will abort their babies at 3 times the rate of other women. As Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas noted, this genocide of the Black community was intentionally planned by Planned Parenthood's founder, Margaret Sanger, and her legacy continues today. The town of Brighton, as you know, prides itself on being progressive, yet the well-documented deceptive practices of Planned Parenthood and their money-making abortion mills are regressive and oppressive. They don't reflect the values of this town, as you've heard other people say. We've also heard people talking about how the pro-life community does not support babies after they're born, and that's why we need to have abortion. Well, as a member of ROC, Love Will End Abortion in Rochester here, I can attest to the fact that whenever there's a woman who's abortion-minded and wants to talk to someone about support, there's a committee of at least 10 folks who immediately kick into gear, hold a baby shower for them, find an apartment for them, support them afterwards with formula, diapers. In fact, my sister, she's the one who's in charge of this. When she posts a baby shower online from Amazon and it has 30 items on, it's usually gone within 2 days. And people say, I couldn't get things. So that happens all the time. She had 2 just 2 weeks ago. So Rochester is a very generous community. We don't need to be killing our babies. We can support mothers after they're born, after the babies are born. I'd like to also mention, too, that Planned Parenthood does none of the things supporting of women after their abortions that they claim to, even though their motto is care no matter what. So I ask you not to approve their plans for setting up another Planned Parenthood in Brighton here. And one of my friends was holding up this sign, which I liked. It's a quote from the Talmud. It says, "Whoever saves one life saves the world." And I like that, and I ask you to help us in that effort to save the world through saving one life. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Next is Tim Hansen, followed by Pastor Tom Burgo, and then Joan Rufin. I apologize if I got that wrong. Good evening.
Good evening. Again, I'd like to express my appreciation to the board for the endurance and patience. My name is Tim Hansen, and I live on Irving Road here in Brighton. I'm here this evening to voice my opposition to any town action supporting Planned Parenthood, the Planned Parenthood Clinic at 2233 South Clinton Avenue in the Westfall Park Medical Center. Brighton is a strong community of diverse people who respect the rule of law and the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our community cannot welcome and cannot allow this organization to conduct the wholesale killing of innocent human life. The deliberate sacrifice of human life is morally and ethically wrong and will only serve to weaken and diminish our town, our neighborhoods, and our families. I urge all town planning board members to vote no on the Planned Parenthood Clinic in Brighton. At the same time, I urge you to be open to business proposals that support life and build up our community. We are all a part of humanity and must do what we can to make Brighton better and stronger. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Next is Pastor Tom.
Hi, as said, I'm Tom Burgo. I'm a resident of Clarkson, New York, but I'm employed at Congregation Shema Yisrael at 250 Edgewood Avenue. I want to again commend the board for your patience and your kindness and doing an outstanding job. I want to talk about some of the subjects that have been brought up tonight. For instance, reproductive rights. Many have talked about that. I'm in favor of reproductive rights, but I also want to make it clear that reproduction occurs at conception. At the moment of conception, there is a unique human being with a unique DNA that is created. Reproduction has occurred. People have discussed, talked about making the decision